Okay, checking. That's loud. Yes, good. Thumbs up. So welcome everyone to once more the Triple Gym, our final gathering of the new year with gigantic shoji screens. They are twice, well, significantly taller than the other ones. So those in the live stream no longer see the lunch tables in the background. So a few announcements before we begin. As many of you know, we're having a New Year's Eve vigil tomorrow evening at Fauntleroy Church. The details are on the website. For those of you online, you're welcome to join. We'll be Zooming and YouTube live streaming the entire thing. And that involves 108 ETP So chants and Dhamma talks, meditation, discussion, lots of coffee. It will be really nice. So it's a beautiful way to bring in the new year, and just want to encourage people to join us for that, however long you can. If people are inclined to come in person, we just want to encourage you, bring a blanket to wear over your shoulders. It can get a little chilly. Additionally, if you are volunteering and have agreed to volunteer, we're going to meet to begin setup at 5:45 p.m. at the church. And we also have at least one gigantic van to ferry supplies from here down to Fauntleroy, but we could use a few other people with cars and space in those cars. So could people raise their hand if they might be able to help, if you're planning on going on to the New Year's Eve vigil tomorrow and are willing to arrive a bit early at around 6 p.m. or so instead of 7, and have a little room in your car where we could load a bit of the shrine or anything else. Is there anybody? Jason, K1, Trenton, great. And Charles, great. So, and maybe Cheryl. Okay, perfect. So all of you talk to Kim there. She'll be wearing the cleanup captain's hat after this. So at about, you can load things into Steve's car or your own cars as well, but we'll make sure to do that around 11:40 a.m. or so. Although if people want to get started a bit early, they're welcome to. Thank you. Additionally, for those of you who don't know, we're having Ajahn Jayasaro visit early May. He's one of our most precious teachers, and it's a real honor to have him. We are currently looking for a extra venues, specifically ones that are open on Sunday. So if people know of any secular venues or Jewish synagogues, places that might be willing to host us on a Sunday, talk to Jessica right there. If you're online, feel free to email friendsofclearmountain@gmail.com with that information. Steve, I think you had an announcement, and if we could get a mic to Steve, which was surprisingly easy, actually.
Oh, howdy, folks. Just wanted to say I'm going to be offering a 6-week intro course in meditation and practice online and in person on the east side, but the online part isn't, through Sims. So if you're interested, on the Sims website, there's a link. Starts January 17th, which is a Wednesday. Tim Giles starting one on the 16th, sort of in parallel, and then it'll be a joint day of mindfulness at the end. So if anyone's interested, talk to me, look on the website.
Thank you, Steve. And that's a really good opportunity to sort of get some more familiarity with the fundamentals of Buddhism. Matt. I did. I mentioned the blankets, but warm clothes too, people. No, it's okay. Focus, Matt. Thank you both. Warm clothes and blankets, people. Okay. We will keep it warm for you. Thank you. Any other, so please do tap into that if you're interested in learning more about the fundamentals of Buddhism. And if you Google Sims, it'll come up with a video game. I've had this problem many times. Seattle Insight is what you Google. Okay. Mother.
I just want to announce this now, since we won't probably be back till Ajahn Jayasaro, is that in June 8th and 9th, these gentlemen will be coming to Winthrop to do a retreat at Cascade Hermitage, and our venue is the Twist Grange, unlike any other Buddhist venue you've ever been to. It's the Grange. The date is June 8th and 9th, and if you're on the Cascade Hermitage mailing list, I'll give you more information and the timing and all that. And I don't know, our tentative title is Duca for Dummies. We'll see.
And we don't have that on the website yet,
No, we
but we
don't.
probably will soon. Yeah, thank you. Yes, June 8th, 7th and 8th, or 8th and 9th, something like that. Yeah, okay.
We can all chant together. Chanting books, page 46, the highest blessings. Now let us chant the verses on the highest blessings. Thus have I heard that the Blessed One was staying at Savatthi, residing at the Jeta's Grove, in Anathapindika's park. Then in the dark of the night, a radiant Deva illuminated all Jeta's Grove. She bowed down low before the Blessed One. Then standing to one side, she said, Devas are concerned for happiness and ever long for peace. The same is true for humankind. What then are the highest blessings? Avoiding those of foolish ways, associating with the wise, and honoring those worthy of honor. These are the highest blessings. Living in places of suitable kinds, with the fruits of past good deeds, and guided by the rightful way. These are the highest blessings. Accomplished in learning and craftsman skills, with discipline highly trained, and speech that is true and pleasant to hear. These are the highest blessings. Providing for mother and father's support, and cherishing family, and ways of work that harm no being. These are the highest blessings. Generosity and a righteous life, offering help to relatives and kin, and acting in ways that leave no blame. These are the highest blessings. Steadfast in restraint and shunning evil ways, avoiding intoxicants that dull the mind, and heedfulness in all things that arise. These are the highest blessings. Respectfulness and naming of humble ways, contentment and gratitude, and hearing the Dhamma frequently taught. These are the highest blessings. Patience and willingness to accept one's faults, seeing venerated seekers of the truth, and sharing often the words of Dhamma. These are the highest blessings. Ardent, committed to the holy life, seeing for oneself the noble truths, and the realization of Nibbana. These are the highest blessings. Although in contact with the world, unshaken the mind remains, beyond all sorrow, spotless, secure. These are the highest blessings. And they who live by following this path know victory wherever they go, and every place for them is safe. These are the highest blessings. Okay, so we can meditate together for about 20 minutes. And people are, of course, welcome to practice with whatever meditation object you're used to. I'll be giving some guidance on a variation on breath meditation, which has got a silly name, but is a very efficacious practice. It's called I like to call it the heavenly jellyfish breath. So with any meditation, just first getting the body into a suitable and supportive posture that's upright, with the vertebrae stacked one on top of the other, upright, and then allowing all the rest of the musculature, all the rest of the body to just fully relax around this central column. Upright, but fully relaxed. And bring your awareness to the lungs. You can take a few larger breaths. Larger in-breath, feeling the lungs expand. And a longer out-breath, feeling the lungs collapse. And as you take these longer breaths, just notice that it's not just the lungs that are expanding and contracting. The circumference around the chest is growing. Every radius from the heart outwards around the body is getting bigger. Your chest is moving forward with the lungs expanding. The lungs expand backwards. And the lungs are expanding up and down. And as the diaphragm beneath the lungs just pulls the lungs down, that downward movement displaces the large intestine, small intestines, internal organs, making the belly rise with the in-breath and fall with the out-breath. As you breathe in to the sides as the breath fills the lungs, even the arms move slightly further lateral, outwards on both sides. It's a three-dimensional process. And breathing in as you take air in, the top of the lungs literally makes you taller by a few micromillimeters. And then exhaling and back down. So this is a broad breath. And you can notice this whole interconnected and fluid and big breath in the whole of the torso and the head. And there's a harmony and intelligence to this big movement. Breathing in long, one knows one's breathing in long from the top of the head expanding down to the belly, around and everywhere. And then, with elegance and its own rhythm, just contracting. So no need to keep the mind small and watch the breath in any tiny little spot, but you can watch this whole organism this big breath body expanding and breathing out, one nose contracting. And you can keep interested in this larger scope, this fluid and flowing, expansive breath body. Full in breath and full out breath. In the last few minutes, hopefully everyone has gotten some sense of this inner heavenly jellyfish. This, even with a shallow breath, it ripples out and can be felt all around. This immersive and absorptive, sensitive, and big breath body awareness. And then just in the last minute or two, just allow every exhalation to be imbued with a sense of well-wishing, boundless well-wishing. Every out-breath, may all beings be happy. Letting that ripple just extend without limits. This warmth. And with the in-breath, just allowing that to come to ourselves as well. May I be well and happy. Perfectly natural, balanced, harmonious, graceful. May all beings be well and happy, and may I be well and happy.
Brahma Chaloka Adipati Sahampati Patanjali Anadivaram Ayachata Santita Satapara Jaka Jatika Dese tu Dhamman Anukampan Mampajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So Ajahn Kovilo and I are going to do a team today, back and forth. And what we wanted to talk about for the new year is a list of qualities the Buddha described as the dawnings of the Dhamma. And it's a list that appears in the 45th chapter of the Connected Discourses, the Samyutta Nikaya. And the Buddha says, just as dawn is the precursor of the rising sun, so these qualities precede the arising of the Noble Eightfold Path in a practitioner. And what are these qualities? Kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship, accomplishment in morality, sila sampada. Matt's taking notes. accomplishment in chanda or zeal, accomplishment in atta sampada, so accomplishment in self or knowledge of self. That one can be a little confusing without context. Accomplishment in view, ditti sampada. Accomplishment in heedfulness, appamada sampada. And finally, yoniso manasikara, which some of you will recognize from last week's talk, appropriate attention. Did I get them all? I got them all. We were practicing this morning. So we're going to switch those a little bit just for the sake of this talk and end with Kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship, and begin with yoniso manasikara, appropriate attention. This is a really meaningful list because these are all qualities which are accessible to us easily. They precede the arising of the Noble Eightfold Path. They're things we can turn towards as the year begins, and they give light to life in a way that is simple, practicable, which we can look at. It's not speaking about a refined state of jhana or a formless attainment. It's just friendship, spiritual friendship. It's just appropriate attention, turning our gaze where it matters. It's just turning our attention towards purifying our ethical conduct. These are the ground from which our practice grows. And so to look to these qualities in the new year, how do we structure our lives to hold the practice and to orient our compass going forward? How do we understand that one more year has passed and, like the Buddha said, this human life is a drop of dew on a blade of grass? And how do we take what little time we have left with these precious teachings, with these precious people, and remember and put them to good use? This is the moment to structure. And we can look to more than a good diet. Or a new gym membership. We can look towards complete liberation of the heart. The first of these qualities, yoniso manasikara, which we'll speak of, Ajahn Kovilo talked about last week, often translated as appropriate attention. It stems from the word yoni, or the womb, the source. It's attention that goes to the source. And while it can be looked at in terms of, or is resonant with the idea of turning back to the center of attention, it's very commonly used in the suttas and practice as a term for how we steer our gaze. What do we take in? Where do our eyes look? This is the most simple and yet perhaps the most significant thing we do on the path is, where do we turn our gaze? I think it was Hegel who said that evil lies in the gaze that sees evil all around it. And so good lies in the gaze that sees good all around it. And those of you who watched our interview last week with Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo of Cave in the Snow, who meditated for 12 years in the cave, might have noticed the moment where Ajahn Kovilo and I asked how she got by alone in a cave for so long and came out so normal, or at least not, her social skills just seemed far better than ours. And she said, I wasn't alone in that cave. It was filled with all sentient beings, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So what can turn an empty cave into an assembly of care and intelligence? So to begin with is, how do we steer our gaze in very practical means? This is the moment to make the list of what you're going to do this next year to hold yourself through the times when the seas are very rough. So practical means, have you set up a shrine in your house? Do you have something, an image of the Buddha or of another icon which means your potential to you, available to bow to first thing in the morning, last thing at night? Do you have a mala, a prayer bead that you can keep in your pocket and recite whenever you're speaking with someone you know you might have difficulty with, or during a brief break at work? Are you meditating at least 20 minutes a day in the morning? In the morning, you can add on more later, but get 20 minutes in the morning. That's basic hygiene, so that you actually have the centeredness to steer your attention through the day. If you don't have that, the mind is a raw wound and there's no ability to steer the gaze. You will be pulled this way and that. So 20 minutes every day in the morning, at least 6 days a week. Can you determine that much for the year, and more if possible? And more, can we understand that having come into contact with these teachings, we've encountered something unbelievably precious, and we have a duty now to uphold and represent and honor it by honoring these teachings. And that entails holding the quality of our hearts with utmost importance. So, can this be the day, the week, the month when you unsubscribe from some of the political podcasts and subscribe to some Dharma Talk ones? You can still touch into some long form political articles to stay up to date or talk to friends, but to really take stock of what it means to be informed versus taking care of one's heart. Can we be informed enough to make a difference without constantly imbibing news? And really making much of this, where do we steer our gaze, and what are the practical means we can take to do that? Finding accountability buddies who can hold us to this, having a confession partner, taking 1 day a week to hold 8 precepts, perhaps, and dedicate to practice. How can we build a life that honors the growing light, which we might suddenly begin seeing manifest? Ajahn.
And from that dawning of the Dhamma, of yoniso manasikara, come to the second dawn of the Dhamma, which is sila sampada. Sampada means accomplishment, or even perfection, or success in sila. And what is sila? It's usually translated as morality or precepts. In a Buddhist context, you talk about sometimes the 5 precepts, the 5 silas. That's refraining from killing, refraining from stealing, refraining from sexual misconduct, from lying, and from using intoxicants. And that, as Ajahn Nisabho said, is basic hygiene. And we can train at that if we're not yet reached some level of success, if this is not what they call pakati sila, if this is just not our normal level of sila, if it's just not natural to us yet. It can be. If it seems troublesome now, that's just because we haven't been practicing it. A really beautiful phrase, which is just said among friends in Thai forest monasteries. I don't think it comes anywhere in the canon, but nothing is hard and nothing is easy. It's only because you haven't done it that it's hard, and it's only because you have that it's easy. So take sila in that way. Whatever practice or morality that you're thinking about taking on, or things that you're thinking about giving up, yeah, if it's hard now, it won't be if you just keep doing it. Another meaning of sila, which is really helpful, is just habit, is habit. And this is a really an overarching narrative of Buddhist practice. You can think of Buddhist practice as wholesome habit formation. We're basically taking on good habits of mind and giving up bad habits of mind, and whatever that means. And as we stay on this path, we get smarter and smarter and more sensitive to the implications of that and the subtleties of how we cause harm for ourselves and others. I highly recommend, if you're taking notes or if you can memorize it, look at the Ambalatika Rahulovada Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses, number 61, 61, MN 61, MN 61. So that's the Buddha's discourse to his son Rahula. And it's basically perfect instructions on how to cultivate good habits. The Buddha says, when you've done something and you look back on it and say, you question yourself, did this thing that I did with body, speech, or mind, did it lead to affliction of self, to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both? Is it an unwholesome bodily, verbal, or mental action with painful consequences, painful results? And if you see, yeah, it is. It sucked for me and it sucked for everybody else, then you should vow and try not to do that in the future. Just basically smart habit formation. When you're doing something, if you look and see what I'm doing right now with body, speech, and mind, is it causing self-affliction, affliction to others, affliction to both? Is it an unwholesome verbal, bodily, mental action with painful consequences, painful results? And if you see it is, then just, okay, I can just stop talking, even mid-sentence. Okay, don't need to go forward. And when you're thinking about the next year, the next day, what you're about to say in the next conversation, just reflect what I'm about to say. Is this going to lead to self-affliction, affliction of others, affliction of both? Is it a painful bodily, verbal, mental action with painful consequences, painful results? Again, this is the Buddha doing this over and over and over again. But it's helpful because we don't learn the lessons. But if we see that what I'm about to say, it's not gonna lead to self-affliction, etc., then do it. And the Buddha says, be happy and rejoice and train day and night in wholesome qualities. So that's how we become sila sampada, just become accomplished in virtue, in good habits.
And the sila sampada, just taking stock of what in your life and work is making you feel weak, what makes you feel like that clean cloth is ripped. And that's one of the words the Buddha used to phrases to describe clean sila, is untorn. And if there's that sense of a rusty nail tearing through cloth, we all know that feeling. And to take stock and to steer our lives by those moments when they are clear, when our heads are above water, and make determinations from that moment. And that might not be between Christmas and New Year's when you've been with family a lot, but maybe it is. Maybe you've seen something that needed to be seen. But steer from those moments. And if there's an addiction involved, just know that there's these groups, Refuge Recovery, Hungry Ghost United, where you really can tap in. Our addictions are variegated, and finding support in this community and elsewhere to confront those now. Often in Buddhist circles, people take 3-month determinations and see if this is a moment when you can do that. I'm done with drinking. 3 months, I'm going to try it. And the monks will support you in this. We're good at not drinking. So it's true. The next quality is chanda sampada, accomplishment in zeal, enthusiasm. So some of you will know that in Buddhism, there's 2 words for desire, or what we might loosely translate as desire in English. One is tanha, which is thirst. It's the cause of dukkha, unnecessary suffering, craving, and it's always unwholesome. It's the feeding off the world. And then we have another word, which is chanda. And chanda is often translated as zeal. And although in some Pali compounds, it does speak to an unwholesome desire for, say, sense objects, it's often used to talk about one's zeal and enthusiasm on the path. And someone recently asked, as a Buddhist, I understand now I need to give up these desires, and I just love so many things. Do I have to just stop loving things? And the answer is no. We don't become dry automatons when we give up tanha, thirst. Look at the Dalai Lama. Look at these bright people we've seen that have developed this path. The difference, the movement in practice is not towards a lack of engagement with the world. It's from an ethic of feeding off of the world to one of blessing the world. And chanda has this feel to it of making things whole. It has to do with producing goodness, with aligning yourself with what you feel is your dharmic duty. And we have a deep desire to connect with the world around us. It's not really an option just to cut off. So the practice, very concretely, is to stop those activities which are characterized by feeding. Stop the addictions, stop the dependencies, stop clinging wherever you're able, and to move and very consciously replace those with acts of giving. Because if you just try to cut them off, it's brutal, and there's a coldness and a violence sometimes there. Sometimes it's completely right just to cut, but often to pay attention to how do we replace those connections with the world. So really encouraging people to begin inviting people over to your house for dinner, cook for people, bring food to your neighbors. There's a practice called the Saraniya practice, where one determines not to eat before having given. Best done perhaps for lunchtime or dinner in the US, although if you do some 6 a.m. deliveries of cookies to neighbors, that's not a terrible thing either. But can you determine to give every day something? Can you replace the Netflix in the evening with a walk with the neighbor, or the weekly outing to something that's not necessary with working at a soup kitchen? Can we understand that we have a duty now in the world, in a world that is suffering and very broken? And if we channel our hearts to bless that world, there's enormous strength there. C.S. Lewis said, if you look for truth, you may find comfort in the end. If you search for comfort, you will find neither truth nor comfort, but only soft soap and wishful thinking in the beginning, and in the end, despair.
Nice. C.S. Lewis. That's great. The next quality is Atta Sampada. And before going into this one, it's good to issue a Theravada trigger warning. This is accomplishment in self. And it might be the case that the record's been running smoothly up until now. And then accomplishment of self, the arm just swings off the record. And what? Isn't Buddhism all about not self? What could this possibly mean? But it's there. What is this accomplishment of self? There are a number of different interpretations. One of them is accomplishment in a view of self. So that's just not investing in some idea that there's any single inherent, always lasting, always going to be present, manifesting capital S self underlying everything, which is just Buddhist right view. But another way to interpret it, which really does find credence in the canon, is just a level of a healthy ego function. A healthy ego function. It's not all about, and can't just be all about, letting go of self, letting go of every kind of self in every way. You have to be really careful when you do this. This can easily lead to spiritual bypassing. This is a modern term, but I feel like what the Buddha is doing here by saying, actually, there is a dawning of the Dhamma. There's a precursor to light arising, which is having a level of healthy sense of self, a healthy sense of self. This is integrating the different parts of your life. And this isn't saying that everybody should go out and have 2.5 kids and buy like a picket fence, or, it's not success on the level of the American dream or success on, basically any other publicly, you really need to look at who you're taking your models from, your models of life. And but there are these different dimensions of our lives. How do we relate to our family members? How do we relate to our vocation? How do we relate to our friends? And if you just, which can often happen, you come to a Buddhist class, read a Buddhist book, and it says, oh, there's no self. And you just think, oh, I just need to do that, whatever that means. And I can just coast, through to Nibbana without really, giving attention to how you're relating to your friends and family and your vocation, etc. So just opening the door to that there is a place in Buddhist practice for, just healthy integration of ego function, and doing that in a way which is in line with the Dhamma. So making sure you have good friends, good role models, you're reading good books for what that actually means in each of these realms, and looking inward and seeing what leads to brightness. So.
The next is accomplishment in view, Ditti Sampada. And some of you will know in Buddhism, there are 2 classes of right view. There's conventional and ultimate. And conventional has to do a great deal with the reality of cause and effect in our lives, our duties, the conventional world we live in, and honoring our obligations. It's often phrased in the suttas as there is what is given, what is offered, what is sacrificed, meaning there are the results of good and bad actions. There is mother and father. There are contemplatives and Brahmins who, practicing rightly, faring rightly, have realized this world and the next, Nibbana. And there is this world and the next, and spontaneously reborn beings. So the things to perhaps draw out there are the sense of duty, that raising up of mother and father, the relationship we have to our family and to our parents in particular, the results of good and bad actions, us taking every action we have and holding it with utmost care and intention as a vital part of the path. I remember a movie I saw a time ago where, before I was a monk, where there was some samurai before I was a monk, and the disciple challenges his teacher, or the teacher challenges the disciple and says, you know, would you like to have a practice battle? And the disciple says, I'm saving my energy for, you know, the important work. And the teacher says, there is no important or unimportant work. Everything is equally important. And because intention is key in a Buddhist context, then when we look at our lives, no matter how mundane, with their picket fences and their 2.5 kids, etc., it's not mundane. It's transcendent because it's a chance to cultivate the path in every moment, in every intention. Can we fold the laundry that's just been dried and put it on the shelf? Can we go to the family gathering and not engage in the conversation or the argument we've gone into again and again? Can we honor our parents? If there's a break in that relationship, can we be the first to apologize and to bow? Can we understand the gratitude that we owe this, all we've been given, and that there's this duty? And a famous teacher named Buddha Dasa, Venerable Buddha Dasa, said, Dhamma is duty. And that's such a useful metric, not only our duty to the outside world, but to our practice. And often I find the best way to intuit that is when you veer from that path, there's a real sense of slight nausea, of waveriness, of justification, of wasting one's time. So can we bring our lives in alignment with duty? The other level of right view is the Four Noble Truths. And most of you will know each of those is accompanied by a task. And that's worth emphasizing here, is one is instructed by the Buddha to comprehend dukkha, suffering, to let go of its cause, tanha, craving, the second, to realize peace, cessation of dukkha, the third noble truth, and to develop the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, the fourth. And it's really worth pointing our attention time and again to the first, because we have no trouble looking and reveling in our moments of peace and when the path is going well. But the Buddha put the first noble truth of dukkha at the forefront, I think in part because it's the part we always want to skip over. We don't want to see our suffering. We don't want to turn towards it. And sometimes, though, this is where real humility rests. It's easy when things are easy. But dukkha, and when the world does not behave as we wish it would, is the only place truly where, or it is the key place where the qualities of breadth of heart, of true empathy and compassion, of humility can be developed. So how deeply can you bow to that ethic of the first noble truth in terms of comprehending suffering and looking at each ornery boss, each difficulty, each moment that's not going the way you wish it would as a gift, because it is truly exactly that friction that causes us to give up that tight and constrained and constricted sense of self and break the heart open. And sometimes really leaning into that. And a good mantra is humble me, humble me. Only through confronting in those moments of struggle and dukkha what we want and the fact that the world is not like we want it to be, do we have a chance to open with complete surrender to what is and find the hidden majesty of heart that lies just beyond that dark valley. And there's no limit that I've seen to how beautiful that alchemical transformation can be if you really turn towards your difficulty as a gift. Richard Rohr said that up until about 30 years old, you need some success to build a sense of self-esteem. But after 30, everything he's learned has been from failure. And every day he prays that God will humble him at least once, embarrass him at least once. Can you make that a prayer? And a good mantra really is humble me. And if you don't know the 8 trainings of the mind in the Tibetan tradition, I would look them up. And just to hold up one as a teaser, whenever I interact with anyone, may I see myself as the lowest of all, and from the very depths of my heart, hold others as supreme. So can we lay our hands carefully on that first noble truth and trust that it will transmute into its own light?
Home stretch, home stretch. This is number 6, the 6th dawning of the Dhamma of 7. So just one more after this. This one is Appamada Sampada, accomplishment in heedfulness. The Buddha said that heedfulness was the overarching umbrella, wholesome Dhamma, the wholesome quality that all other wholesome Dhammas can fit underneath, just as the huge foot of an elephant, every other forest creature's footprint can fit inside of that footprint. So appamada, heedfulness, vigilance, this encompasses all other wholesome qualities of mind that we want to develop in ourselves. And just to point out 2 ways that we need to be vigilant. One is in line with what Ajahn Nisabho raised as the conventional right view that the Buddha talks about samsara. And you can't be heedless in a world where our continued pleasure and well-being is not assured. You got to be on top of your game. You can't you have to watch yourself. Nibbana as a future goal is to be inclined towards. So be heedful on the level of samsara, but also please be heedful on the level of the present moment. Be heedful on the level of the present moment. What do you have to do right now? Is just be here, awake, let go of bias, leaning towards liking too much or disliking an aversion. And that's being heedful in the present moment. And we need to do both. See a long view and the exact spot beneath our feet. So heedfulness.
Truly home stretch. Number 7, which we're both doing. So Kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship. And most of you will know this term, but it's such an important one to come back to understand that at that moment of dawn, there comes a point where the stars have faded, the constellations by which we used to navigate, but the sun has not yet become visible, and it can be disorienting. And similarly, we begin to practice, and there's a moment where we've seen through some of what the world had given us, but things have not become clear yet. And we have our storms and our doubts. And just to know that in those moments, this is when community holds each other. And what a precious thing to be sitting here in the midst of a gym / on Zoom, in the midst of people who, the people here generally will not talk behind your back. They will not lie to you. They coming into contact with a group of people who will sit in quiet in a room dedicated to what you care about is such a precious thing. And just to value that, to be a good friend to yourself and understand you're doing just fine. That's another good mantra. You're doing just fine. Life is really hard. Practice is really hard. 80%, 70% of the practice, Longpo Cha said, is knowing you should give something up and not being able to. You're doing fine. And just rejoice in that. Often people will miss the light nimitta, the sign of light in meditation, because they're expecting a single bright ball. What they don't realize is often the light nimitta in meditation is just a brightening of the whole visual landscape. And we miss the brightening of our lives because everything's just getting slowly brighter. And there's also oscillations up and down, but the general trajectory is up, even if we can't see it, because often we can't, only those around us can. So being good friends to ourselves. And finally, understanding that our own happiness, while important, it doesn't always work in terms of a language to sustain us, whereas duty does. So what duty do we have towards our friends, our Kalinamitta in the world? How do we be a true spiritual friend to all beings and honor the path by cleansing our hearts so we truly can be a selfless, a selfless conduit of a gift to those in our lives? And how can we be a beautiful friend to all those we meet?
And just highlighting that last word that Ajahn Nisabho used, beautiful, a beautiful friend. How do we be a beautiful friend? Literally, Kalyana Mitta. Mitta is friend, Maitri, friendship, and Kalyana is literally beautiful. In the canon, you talk about there was a Janapada Kalyani, which is translated, Janapada is India. Janapada Kalyani is like the beauty queen of India. So it's beauty on the outside. But here, when we talk about beautiful friendship, it's beauty on the inside. And it's kind of amazing. Hopefully, everyone has experienced this. But the longer you stay in spiritual circles, genuine practice circles, it seems you're surrounded more and more by beautiful people. And it's strange. You wonder, and I'm not talking about like supermodels necessarily, but it's strange. Is it the case that I'm meeting more and more spiritually beautiful people, or is it just the case that I'm seeing beauty more clearly with the same type of people? And I think it's both. But really allowing this word beauty to come into your spiritual vocabulary, and just acknowledge that, whatever the gender, whatever any kind of external situation, there is a beauty, like a brightness of heart that comes out, and learning to see that and inclining the mind in that direction will make our own lives more beautiful. So hopefully we can all practice these dawnings of the Dhamma and see the light more and more in our lives.
Kataya sadhu karam dadamase.
Bonnie once asked why we sounded so morose when we said that. So it's supposed to be good and sober, but we can add a little sparkle too. So I think we have a time for questions and comments and discussion now. If you want to raise your electronic hand, if you're there in Zoom, then you can do that. If you want to raise your real hand, if you're here, then we'll run a mic over to you.
Do you think Apadama, heedfulness could be as popular as mindfulness? And why not?
Yeah, it's a good point. There's this line in the Dhammapada, apamato amatopadam, pamato yatop, apamato. Yeah, basically in English, heedfulness is the path to the deathless. Those who are heedful will not die. Those who are heedless are as if dead already. And oftentimes that's translated, Ajahn Sumedho translates it as mindfulness is the path to the deathless. And I think that's true. But yeah, it's not as catchy. It's not as, I think heedfulness is just not a word that modern English users use on a regular basis. So other people have translated it as vigilance or yeah, alertness even. So we gotta work on that. I don't know if you have a better translation or any thoughts on it. No. We'll work on that.
I've been encountering recently, even in the morning, after having consumed some coffee, a doldrum, a lethargy in the practice, especially as I begin to calm. It's like the bottom falls out. And suddenly in the morning, which is usually a really strong time of meditation, I'm like falling into this nodding space. And if that happens in the afternoon, I know enough to get up and walk a bit. But in the morning, it just strikes me as very odd. So I'm not quite sure how to handle that yet.
Drowsiness. Yeah, I think a very common hindrance. I think some skillful means is if you know of the sound of silence, the nada sound. So it's many of you know this, it's a subtle ringing below the auditory landscape that you can kind of tap into. If you haven't heard it before, then when the mind's a bit calm, then just try to listen for it, or you can put in earplugs if that helps. And if you begin to pick it up, it can become more and more apparent until you can really keep it going through your whole life, or at least during meditation when you turn your attention to it. And it's very brightening. It can really help you stay awake. Ajahn, whereas breath often can lead to drowsiness. So bringing in the sound of silence to supplement or even replace the breath during periods of drowsiness. I also think opening your eyes just a crack and meditating with like a soft focus with open eyes can be helpful. You can hold a stone or some object between your thumbs like that. And if it drops, you'll know you've slipped off. I know someone who put a rock on his head and tied it to his ear somehow, but it kept falling off and annoying the monk behind him. So he got admonished. You could do that. And, cold showers, exercise, brightening the mind before you sit. I also find that sometimes a micro nap can actually be very helpful. Is if you just can't get past things any other way, set the alarm for like 3 minutes and just quickly lie down until it goes off and then pop back up. And sometimes that brief dip down kind of can springboard you into calm, I find. The Buddha recommends pulling your ears as well.
Hi. My question has to do with, as you go through this list, I noticed my body getting tenser and tenser and tenser. It's like, how am I ever going to do this? And I wondered if you could say something about sort of the Western mind and metta for oneself, or there's got to be a balance. And I just wasn't hearing that right now. And I understand this is for New Year's resolutions, but I'm wondering if you could share something that would kind of go,
Yeah, it's worth noting that this seems like a list and we conveyed it like a list, but it's actually 7 different suttas that are exactly the same except for one word, and they're one after the other. So really, I think that suggests that the Buddha would maybe have given these different initial starting places, these dawns, to different people who they were uniquely suited for. And we're just, we're talking to a lot of people who have different conditions. And it is fascinating when you come to practice circles that some people are really enthusiastic and need more enthusiasm, and something like accomplishment in this wholesome desire, chanda sampada, is really what they need. But maybe for other people, this yoniso manasikara sampada, accomplishment in this coming back to the yoni, or appropriate attention, coming back and looking for the causes of things, like uttejaniya, this looking at the mind and coming back to that. I really think that that's a very legitimate way to practice yoniso manasikara. So just taking that and letting the other ones be just part of the dawn rise along with that.
I think that's a really important point. And this flavor can come across in a lot of the teachings, like you said, the sort of disciplinarian or fire and brimstone, or just more stuff to do, and I'm already falling short. And I think first it's worth noting that in this list, the Buddha begins with Kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship. And what a simple, beautiful thing to begin with. Just hang around good people and be a good friend to yourself. And that is a grounding, like when you notice yourself admonishing yourself, really noticing that, or when the Buddha's become in your mind someone who's not a good friend, who's you foolish man, you foolish woman, whatever, you know that something's gone off. And just really noticing that this isn't the fault of the path. We come fully loaded for complete self-flagellation, and we will be doing it to ourselves and ripping the skin off our backs our whole lives. And it's no surprise that, of course, those patterns come right into the path with us. And it's not the fault of the path. This is old karma. All the patterns, all the inputs in this environment are wholesome. So when we have those patterns, just saying like, okay, this is old karma coming to fruition. I'm not going to feed into it. And like you said, sometimes really emphasizing the parts of the path that counterbalance that, and just you're doing fine. If you're coming here on a Saturday morning, being with good people, if you're meditating 20 minutes a day, even less, but I think most of you can get 20 minutes. That's an amazing standard, so rare. And just noticing when you veer into any sort of self aversion, that's not right, and really bringing to bear this metta. So thank you for emphasizing that. And yeah, I mean, there's no single phrase we can give that will alleviate that problem for more than a few minutes for people. Like, it's so deeply rooted, but keep an eye on it. Absolutely. Did that address the issue a bit? Yeah.
Maybe just one more question. We have some announcements and things. Is that Mary with the hand up?
Hello, Ajahns. Hello, friends. Hello. I just wanted to kind of comment, as a comment more than a question, on where do our eyes look? And over these holidays, I had a chance to visit my spiritual mother, Sister Florence, and Rita, who were the two nuns who hosted us for many, many retreats. And Sister Florence now is 97 or something. She's very weak. She's in the nursing home. I went to see her. She recognized me, and her first question, apropos of where do our eyes look, her first question to me was, what is in your prayers? That's right where she went, right what she wanted to talk, right to the heart of how is your practice? And I just find her a beautiful Kalyanamita, and also at 97, looking to the heart as the first question, a great, great lesson. And I just wanted to share.
Thank you, Mary. Florence and Rita were the two nuns who hosted our first retreats in Spokane. So that's so good to hear about her.
Well, thank you, everybody. We have a few announcements. Before going into the announcements, maybe just wanted to invite Ajahn Nisabho's parents, his mother and father. Ajahn Nisabho and I were away. We were out of town during Ajahn Nisabho's birthday on November 19th. So his parents and a few others have arranged for a little something something. And there's a song that people who aren't on the 8 precepts can sing that usually goes along with such a thing. And we've got a harmonica. So Okay, let's go harmonica.
What's happening?
You want to read it, Ajahn?
It says Mara's bait, but with much gratitude for your monkitude. Sounds like an Ajahn Kovilo saying. Aw. Wow, that was close on the heels of yours. That's really kind. That's a lot bigger than the donut. I'm not comparing, I'm just saying it. You have to help. Okay. Thank you. This last 2.5 years has been, apart from ordaining, the biggest blessing of my life. And I think I speak for most people here when I say that I feel like we've all stepped into something that's unbelievably rare and precious. I don't know how many people get to encounter karmic streams like this, bringing so much together in one moment. And to value that properly seems an impossible task, although that is a big cake. so I've been so touched, and I don't yeah, it's the, apart from the robes, the biggest blessing of my life. So I'm so grateful to have been part of all that you all have created here, as well. And yeah, and thank you, Ajahn, Mom, Dad, Allison especially, and Kim too, and everyone else. Thank you. It's okay, you don't have to clap.
I
That's
think-
okay.
And I think we'll pass the mic around for people to show their appreciation as well. Or were you about to do that right now, Ajahn Kovilo? I just wanted personally to echo a little bit, something along the lines of what Jean brought up, is the tremendous encouragement that you offered us all, and me in particular. And I remember in particular when we were driving back from Winthrop once, and I said, you know, what should I be changing in my practice, or what should I be doing? And you said your practice is perfect, you know. And I think that was, you know, the weight that I was feeling from so much of the places where I knew you were lying, but it was still, it was a great lie. So I that kind of encouragement has meant so much to me. So that's something I wanted to share. And I'll pass the mic to other people who would like to share what they would like to share.
Right from the beginning, I noticed how you treat everybody the same way. And it's a great inspiration to me. So it's not like I like this person more or less, or you don't belong here. And I really appreciate that. Happy birthday.
Ajahn, from that first moment at the gathering, I think it was at Magnuson Park, and the delight that I felt having you come and what you have offered this community. And it's just was, to me, so welcome and such a blessing to have you here. And your just coming from your heart and your devotion to your own practice, to the Dhamma, and to having all of us in your life, because I think in 2.5 years, this has been amazing how the community has grown. So thank you, Sadhu.
I remember when you invited me and some of the other local Dharma leaders from Seattle Insight to come and talk with you, and you were wearing that boot thing, and we walked around Volunteer Park, and you wanted to talk about creating community. And I was so humbled and appreciative that you wanted my thoughts on that, and how gracious and welcoming you've been, and reaching out to the Seattle Insight community and welcoming us here. And it's just been really important. Thank you.
It's on. Okay. Yeah, I'm so grateful that you wanted to come up here to Seattle and start a monastery, because truly it's how Buddhism entered my life, and it's been the best thing of my life. It's been such a gift. And just I see all these wonderful people that just kind of going back to what Ajahn Kovila was saying, it's just, am I seeing more beautiful people, or is it because there's a light there? And there is a light that is in Seattle now, and by both of you. And I'm just so grateful. It's really just been a big blessing. And it's not just Ajahn Nisabho. I know he'll point it right back and be like, it's everyone, and it is. But it's always nice to be able to celebrate you, because you really give us so much. And he lives in my backyard right now, so I know how much he gives and what he does. It's a lot. And just, yeah, so grateful. Thank you, Ajahn Nisabho.
One thing that I value so much about you, Ajahn, is it seems like you hold your orientation to the Dhamma with such a heartfelt earnestness that it creates this foundation and container of practice for all of us, where there's just this deepening of practice that for me, I just have an access to that I didn't before, because there's just this earnestness and warmth that you hold for us all that is invaluable. It's just a blessing. So I celebrate you with a sparkly sadhu.
And I want to echo that it's your emphasis on Sangha that has just changed my life for the better, and many others I know as well, that it's the people that matter here, that's really what matters. And that feels really, really good. And then also that, you're not allowing the Dhamma practice to just be intellectual, to be an intellectual pursuit, but that it's grounded in the heart with you, and that you always encourage that. Thank you.
I'm going to go. Is this on? Yeah. I'm going to go up front because I'm going to speak to you all some quickly. So speaking as a parent, you want your child to be loving and caring, and I got that. But you also want them to be surrounded by people who are loving and caring. For all you, thank you. Somebody online too.
Hey, Ajahn, it's hard to think without becoming verklempt. What I've experienced in the year and a half I've been coming here is how deeply you've created you've helped create the causes and conditions for refuge. And I deeply find this community, the capacity for awakening, the teachings, the Sangha, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, a true refuge. And even though I'm not here every week or on Wednesdays, you guys, both of you are with me, like Tenzin Palmo said, in my truck when I'm listening to the podcasts, or in the morning when I'm deeply, deeply suffering and lonely. I go to this community that you've created. So thank you.
Somebody on Zoom?
The person on Zoom?
Oh, Zoom people. Go ahead. Zoom person.
I think I'm next, maybe. Yeah, just same thing as other people have said, just the constant giving that you have the energy and time to do. It's like all your time and energy is to giving to this community. And it's really astounding. And I guess just like how much you and this community have changed my life. Like it's really astounding to me. And I know so many of us here feel the same way, and deepening of practice and all the guidance you give, not just in meditation, but like daily life and how to live. And yeah, I also just have things that you've said come up in my mind in my day. And it's like, oh yeah, this is realigning to the path. And that's what's so life-changing. So thank you.
Juanita?
นมัสการพระอาจารย์ thank you to just being a monk, truly a monastic in this land that we need example to show us. So you follow the Vinaya series, very the way you hold the Vinaya, and the way you have relationship with the lay people, and keep your own practice very, very strictly. That because of this, it influence or inspire us to practice and being seriously about being a Buddhist. Especially I'm from the Thai community who live away from Thailand. Because I found Ajahn, I met Ajahn the first time in the volunteer park more than 2 years ago. And it made me like I'm not away from the community, the village community in Thailand. And especially in the last week, when I care for my mother-in-law, and you send message at 3 a.m. in the morning to ask about my mom before she died. At that moment, I was really miss my village, because when somebody is very sick like this, nearly dead, we're full of the people around us. Then later, the relative, the neighbor, everyone come to have support. But I sit in the middle of, alone with my deadly mother-in-law, and really make me homesick at the time, really. But I got a message at 3 a.m., and Ajahn Nisabho said, how is Bonnie? It really, really means so much to me. Thank you so much for that. And because of this, and you even offer to give a service chanting for her after she passed away 15 minutes right then. It's chanting for him, like it means so much for us. For me, I don't know about my husband family, but for me it means so much with that. And so at first I thought maybe I should go back to Thailand and be more serious over there. But because of this community that I found this, I think I will be very happy to continue living here and be part of this community, beautiful community here. And you are just being, I have been asked you that, Ajahn, you don't have to do anything. You just being like you, like this, that we draw the people come already. But of course you have full of energy. So being like this, so then because of just being here is already hold us together. Thank you very much, Ajahn. Thank you very much.
Hi, John. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Today's my dad's birthday as well, and I just wanted to re-offer him a gift with this added caveat that it looks strikingly like you, you know? So I just wanted to thank you for your warmth and your light, and may you be happy everywhere always. Be well. Thank you. Here you go, Dad. Be well.
John, you've been so uplifting and encouraging and able to see the good in people so much that even when I feel like I'm failing at times, I feel like you believe in me more than anyone else in my life, and I just thank you so much for that.
Thank you for always making me feel welcome and making Buddhism not just something that is on YouTube, but is actually real and in my life. All right. Ajahn, he really is. He's great. I live with him. I live super close to him. And we share a bathroom. And he's just great in so many ways. But we do have to eat that cake. And I think we have 1 or 2 or 3 announcements before that. But yeah, thank you, everybody.
We do share a bathroom. Ajahn Kovilo, you're great too. And thank you everyone for what you said. I honestly feel like whatever's happening here is just yeah, it feels a lot like falling in love. And I have such faith in what's happening and what's coming together, and just seeing puzzle piece after puzzle piece click together. I just think we could create refuge for for many generations if we do this right. And I can't think of a better core of group of people to do it with. Yeah, I never want to take for granted what is happening in this gym, which I love. But I'm so grateful, and thank you for everything everyone said. And yeah, it's an honor. So thank you. Okay. Oh, yeah, Sparkly Sadhu, sure. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To all of you too. Thank you. Okay. Somewhat anticlimactic. Once again, if anyone has ideas for Sunday venues for Ajahn Jayasaro in the spring, talk to Jessica. If we load stuff for things that we need to take to New Year's Eve, if you can take them, either we'll do that at about 11:40 after eating cake, or if you're going to leave before then, make sure to talk to Steve or Kim with the hat, who doesn't yet have the hat, but will, before you leave, so you can get a load of stuff to take with you. And who hasn't gotten a Clear Mountain Mala yet? Okay. Well, just so people know, you're welcome to come up. We got these malas blessed in Thailand and under the tree in Bodh Gaya. And please come and get one if you want it. They're free. They're just gifts. If you're online and haven't gotten one, you can go to the website under support recitations of refuge, and you can request one there, and we'll mail it to you. Bonnie has been our amazing mala steward, and Andrew, And many people have donated to make those available just as a sign of community for everyone. Bring warm clothes to the New Year's Eve thing. That's all I can remember to say. Oh, Dad, yes. Vegan cake, people. Good and delicious. Okay. All right, sadhu. Everyone, we can bow to the shrine for those who want, no pressure. Wave goodbye to the Zoom people. See you, Zoom people. All right, great. And please have cake.